She thought humans were myths. Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Today we bring you a story called The Myth Made Real. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the journey. The ship was dying. Marcus Webb knew it the moment the console started screaming at him in 3 different languages, none of which meant anything good. Red lights, klaxons, the smell of burning circuits, the universal language of "you're completely screwed." He'd been running reconnaissance over an uncharted sector when something hit him. Not weapons fire, something else. An energy pulse that fried every system simultaneously. 1 second, he was mapping stellar coordinates. The next, he was riding 100 tons of scrap metal straight toward a planet that wasn't supposed to have life. The atmosphere entry was violent. His restraints cut into his chest as the ship bucked and rolled. Through the viewport, he caught glimpses of purple sky, silver forests, mountains that looked like they'd been carved by giants. Beautiful. Probably the last thing he'd ever see. The impact knocked him unconscious. When Marcus woke, everything hurt. His head pounded. His ribs screamed. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. But he was alive. Against all logic and physics, he was alive. He unbuckled with shaking hands and stumbled out of the wreckage. The ship had carved a trench through what looked like a forest. Except the trees were silver and gold, their leaves chiming softly in the wind like music. The sky was 3 shades of purple, darkening toward what he assumed was night. 2 moons hung on the horizon, one pale blue, one deep crimson. Not Earth. Very much not Earth. Marcus checked his gear. Sidearm intact. Survival knife. Medical kit. Communicator completely dead. He was stranded on an alien planet with no way to call for help. The realization should have terrified him. Instead, he felt oddly calm. 10 years in the Frontier Corps did that to you. You either learned to handle impossible situations, or you died screaming. He heard the sound before he saw them. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving fast through the undergrowth. Marcus dropped into cover behind a fallen tree, hand on his weapon. The footsteps grew closer. Voices now, speaking a language that sounded like wind chimes and thunder. They emerged from the tree line. 6 figures, humanoid, but definitely not human. Tall, 7 feet at least, with skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. Their eyes were large, silver, and completely unreadable. They wore armor that looked grown rather than forged, organic plates that moved with their bodies. Each carried weapons, blades that hummed with energy. And leading them was her. She was taller than the others, her armor more elaborate, marked with symbols that might have been rank or family, or something Marcus couldn't begin to understand. Her skin was darker, almost black, with patterns of silver that caught the light. Her hair was long, white as starlight, bound in intricate braids. Her eyes, those silver eyes, scanned the wreckage with the intensity of a predator. When she spoke, her voice was command itself. The others fanned out, searching the crash site. Marcus stayed perfectly still, barely breathing. Military training. If you can't fight, hide. If you can't hide, run. One of them found him anyway. The alien soldier yanked him out of cover with inhuman strength. Marcus reacted on instinct, driving his elbow into what he hoped was a vulnerable spot. The alien grunted but didn't release him. Instead, she twisted his arm behind his back with casual efficiency. professional. The leader approached. Up close, she was even more intimidating. She studied Marcus the way a scientist studies a specimen. Curious, analytical, utterly without fear. She said something in that chiming language. Marcus shook his head. "I don't understand." Her eyes widened slightly. She spoke again, different words this time, then again in another language, and another. Marcus recognized a few. Trade languages used in the outer systems, but couldn't speak them well enough to matter. Finally, she pulled a device from her belt and pressed it against his temple. Marcus tried to jerk away, but the soldier holding him was immovable. The device hummed. Pain spiked through his skull, sharp and immediate. Then suddenly, clarity. "You understand me now?" Her voice was deeper than he expected, with an accent that made every word sound like a challenge. "Yes," Marcus managed. "What did you do?" "Neural bridge. Temporary." She circled him slowly. "You are human." It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Impossible." But she didn't sound disbelieving. She sounded thrilled. "Humans are myths, children's stories, legends from the old wars." "Hate to disappoint you, but I'm very real." She laughed. The sound was unexpected, genuine. "Oh, you misunderstand, human. You do not disappoint me. You are exactly what I need." She gestured to her soldiers. "Bind him, carefully. If he is damaged, he is worthless to me." They bound his hands with something that felt like silk, but held like steel. Marcus didn't resist. 6 armed aliens, unknown planet, no backup. Fighting would be suicide. Better to wait, watch, learn. As they marched him through the forest, Marcus learned her name. Zilara Valtheron. The soldiers called her commander, but the way they said it carried weight beyond rank. This was someone who'd earned respect, through blood. "Where are you taking me?" he asked after an hour of walking. "To reclaim what was stolen from me." Zilara didn't look back. "You, human, are my proof." "Proof of what?" "That the old wars were real, that humans existed, that my family's history is not fiction." She stopped suddenly, turned to face him. "I was exiled 3 years ago, called a liar and a fool for believing in myths. My own council stripped me of my title, my lands, everything. But if I return with you, with living proof of humanity, they cannot deny me." Marcus understood immediately. He was a political tool, evidence in a power struggle. "And if I refuse to cooperate?" Zalara's smile was sharp. "You crashed on my planet, human. You have no ship, no way home, no allies. Cooperation is your only option. But," she added, something softening in those silver eyes, "I am not cruel. Help me reclaim my throne, and I will help you find a way home. I give you my word." The word of an exiled princess. The word of Zilara Valtheron. She placed her hand over her heart in what looked like a formal gesture. "We, Thalari, do not break our vows. Ever." Marcus studied her. 10 years of reading people, of judging friend from enemy, told him she was sincere. Desperate, maybe. Determined, definitely, but sincere. "Then I guess we have a deal," he said. They traveled for 3 days through terrain that tried to kill them at every opportunity. The forests were beautiful and deadly, plants that exploded into clouds of paralyzing spores, predators that hunted in packs and could camouflage perfectly, rivers that looked calm but hid currents strong enough to crush bone. Zylara led them through all of it with the confidence of someone who'd spent her life in these wilds. Her soldiers followed without question, and Marcus, against his better judgment, found himself impressed. On the second night, sitting around a fire that burned silver instead of orange, Zylara told him about Thalaris, her world, a planet of warriors and scholars, of honor codes and blood oaths. The Thalari had ruled this sector for millennia, until internal politics and stupid pride tore them apart. My father believed in the old wars, she said quietly. He spent his life researching them, the alliance between Thalari and humans, the battles we fought together against the Void Collective. He died trying to prove it was real. And they called him crazy? They called him a fool. Said he wasted resources chasing fairy tales. Her silver eyes reflected the firelight. When I continued his work, they exiled me, said I was unfit to rule, that I dishonored our family with my delusions. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. She looked at him, surprised. Why? It is not your burden. Because I know what it's like to believe in something everyone else thinks is impossible. He smiled slightly. I joined the Frontier Corps because I thought we could make a difference out here. That exploring the unknown mattered. Most people back home think we're just wasting time and money. Then we are both fools, Zylara said. But she was smiling. The best kind of fools. On the third day, they reached the outskirts of Valthara, the capital city. It was magnificent. Towers that stretched toward the purple sky, connected by bridges that seemed to float without support. Buildings carved from a single piece of crystal that refracted light into rainbows. Gardens that grew in impossible spirals, defying gravity. And at the center, the throne palace, massive, ancient, beautiful. Zylara's plan was simple. March straight through the main gates with Marcus as her proof. Challenge the council publicly. Force them to acknowledge her claim. It was a terrible plan, suicidally bold, exactly what Marcus would have done in her position. The guards at the gate recognized her immediately. Shock, confusion, and something that might have been fear crossed their faces. Word spread fast. By the time they reached the throne room, half the city knew Zylara had returned. The throne room was packed. Council members in elaborate robes, warriors in ceremonial armor, citizens who'd come to see what the commotion was about, and, seated on the throne, a male Thalari with darker skin than Zylara's and cold, calculating eyes. "Uncle," Zylara said, her voice carried across the massive room, "I have returned." Kral Valtharan, acting regent in Zylara's absence, looked genuinely shocked, then amused. "Niece, still chasing fairy tales, I see." "Not chasing." Zylara pushed Marcus forward. "Proving." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, people pressing forward to see better. Marcus stood there, very aware that he was the center of attention for hundreds of aliens who thought he shouldn't exist. "Impossible!" someone shouted. "A trick!" another called. "Silence!" Kral's voice boomed. He descended from the throne, approaching Marcus slowly. This could be anything. A slave from an unknown world. A mutation. A very elaborate costume. "Test him," Zylara said calmly. "Test his blood, his genetics, his knowledge. He is human. Everything my father claimed about the old wars was true. And you," she turned to face the council, "exiled me for speaking that truth. Kral's eyes narrowed. And if he is real, what then? You think one human proves you deserve the throne? No? Zilara stepped forward. I challenge you by right of blood and honor. Single combat for the throne, as is our way. The room went silent. This was apparently a big deal. Kral smiled. You would challenge me. I, who trained you, who watched you grow. You, who stole my birthright. Zylara's hand moved to her weapon. Accept or abdicate. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Kral laughed. Very well. Tomorrow at dawn, the traditional grounds, may the ancestors guide the worthy. That night, in the quarters they'd been given, Marcus found Zilara on the balcony. She stood at the railing, looking out over her city. The twin moons painted everything in shades of blue and red. You didn't mention the single combat part of your plan, Marcus said. Would you have objected? Probably not, but a warning would have been nice. She smiled slightly. Your people have a saying, I think. Better to ask forgiveness than permission? Something like that. Marcus joined her at the railing. Can you beat him? I do not know. Her honesty was surprising. He is older, more experienced. He has been training while I survived in the wilds, but I have something he lacks. What's that? She turned to face him. In the moonlight, her silver eyes seemed to glow. Purpose. And perhaps, she added quietly, a friend. Is that what we are? Friends? What else would you call it? You could have escaped a dozen times during our journey. You did not. You stood beside me when I faced my uncle. You are either my friend or the most patient prisoner in history. Marcus laughed. When you put it that way. They stood there in comfortable silence. Then Zilara spoke again. If I fall tomorrow, you will be free. Kral will have no use for you. Find a way off this world. Go home. And if you win? Then I keep my vow. I help you find your way home. She paused. Though I confess, I will be sorry to see you leave. Something in her voice made Marcus's chest tighten. Yeah, he said softly. Me too. The combat grounds were ancient. A circular arena carved into bedrock, surrounded by thousands of spectators. Dawn light painted everything gold and purple. Zilara stood on one side in her armor, weapon drawn. Kral stood opposite, looking confident and calm. The rules were simple. Fight until one yields or falls. No outside interference. The ancestors would judge the worthy. Marcus watched from the edge, hands clenched. He'd seen combat before, had fought in dozens of battles. But this felt different, more personal, more important. They met in the center with explosive force. Zilara was faster, but Kral was stronger. Her blade sang through the air. His met it with booming impacts. They moved like dancers, like warriors, like two people who knew each other's style intimately. Blood was drawn. Zylara's shoulder, Kral's leg. The fight dragged on, brutal and elegant. The crowd was silent, transfixed. Then Kral made a mistake, a slight overextension. Zilara saw it instantly. Her blade flashed. Kral's weapon went flying. She placed her blade against his throat. Yield, she commanded. Kral's eyes burned with hatred, but he had no choice. I yield. The crowd erupted, cheering, chanting Zylara's name. She stepped back, lowering her weapon, still watching her uncle, still cautious. The council approached. The eldest, a female, with silver hair and kind eyes, bowed deeply. Princess Zylara Valtheron. By right of blood and honor, by judgment of the ancestors, we restore your title and lands. You are the rightful heir. Forgive us for doubting you. Zylara straightened. For the first time since Marcus met her, she looked vulnerable. I forgive you, she said quietly. But do not forget again. The celebration lasted 3 days. Feasts, ceremonies, formal apologies from those who had exiled her. Zylara endured it all with grace, though Marcus could see the exhaustion in her eyes. On the 4th day, she found him in the palace gardens. I have located a ship, she said without preamble. A merchant vessel, heading toward human space. They will take you. You leave tomorrow. Marcus had known this was coming, had been preparing for it. So why did it feel like someone had punched him in the chest? Tomorrow. That's fast. No reason to delay. But her voice was tight. I gave my word. You helped me reclaim my throne. Now I help you go home. Right. Your word. Marcus turned to face her fully. Zylara? I do not. She held up a hand. Do not make this harder than it is. Make what harder? She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were filled with something Marcus had never seen there before. Vulnerability, fear, letting you go. His breath caught. Then don't. You have a home, a people, a life. I had a life. Marcus stepped closer. Past tense. I was a soldier with no family, no real friends, no purpose beyond the next mission. Then I crashed here, met you. And for the first time, in 10 years, I felt like I mattered. Not as a soldier, as a person. Marcus, see, I know it's crazy. I know we're from different worlds, literally, but I don't want to leave. He took her hand. Her skin was cool, smooth. I don't want to go back to being alone. Zylara stared at their joined hands. If you stay, you can never go back. The ship leaves tomorrow. There will not be another for months, perhaps years. I know. You would give up your world for this? For me? Yes. She pulled her hand away. For a terrible moment, Marcus thought she was rejecting him. Then she grabbed his face and kissed him. It was fierce, desperate, everything she'd been holding back. When she pulled away, her eyes were bright. You are a fool, she whispered. The best kind of fool, he whispered back. Stay then. Stay and help me rebuild. Stay and prove that my father was right. That Thalary and humans can be more than myths to each other. She smiled, and it transformed her face. Stay and be my proof, my friend, my partner. Your partner. If you wish. We Thalori mate for life. It is not a decision to make lightly. Marcus laughed. I crashed on your planet, got captured, helped you reclaim a throne, and fell in love with an alien warrior princess. I don't think I'd do anything lightly. Then we are well matched. She kissed him again, softer this time. Welcome home, Marcus Webb. Welcome home. 10 years later, Marcus stood in the palace library, surrounded by texts about the old wars. He'd spent the last decade helping Zylara rebuild her world, re-establish contact with other species, and prove that the alliance between their people had been real. They'd found other humans, small colonies scattered across the sector, descendants of those who'd fought in the old wars and never made it home. The reunion had been emotional, beautiful, proof that some bonds transcended time and space. Behind him, small feet pounded against the floor. "Papa!" Marcus turned just in time to catch his daughter. She was 5, with his dark hair and her mother's silver eyes. A perfect blend of 2 worlds. "What is it, Starlight?" "Mama says dinner is ready, and that if you're late again, she's feeding your portion to Uncle Crawl." Marcus laughed. Crawl, after his defeat, had become Xylara's most loyal advisor. And yes, he did enjoy stealing Marcus's food. "Then we better hurry." As they walked toward the dining hall, his daughter's hand in his, Marcus thought about that crash landing. That moment when his ship died, and he'd thought his life was over. He'd been wrong. His life hadn't ended on Thalaris. It had begun.